there. Badlands, you might say, home to rogues on the run, highwaymen, bandits, and occasionally smugglers, all of them extremely nasty and armed to the teeth. The government makes a play of getting rid of them every so often, but that isn't all. There are goblins, and they know nothing about land rights. We've now come to terms with goblins in Ankh-Morpork, said Moist quickly. It's a matter of finding something for them to do that they really like doing and are good at. And of course, after that, it's just a case of remembering their names and refraining from kicking them. They can be extremely helpful if unkicked, although not necessarily likeable. I wish we could get on decent terms with them, said the Marquis wistfully. But these, you must understand, are quern goblins, and therefore extremely argumentative and intractable, and on top of it often drunk. They brew their own wine, for heaven's sake. He thought for a moment, and then corrected himself. Or rather, a wine-like substance. That doesn't sound so bad, does it? Said Moist. Really, they brew the wine from snails, from the fruit of the wall, as you call it in Ankh-Morpork. It makes them extremely rowdy, but they would probably be okay if it wasn't for the bandits who hunt them for fun. So, do the bandits own the Marquis? Said Moist. The Marquis hesitated. No, it is indeed no man's land. I suppose if we talk to lawyers, they will say it's owned literally by the state of Quern in its entirety. Well, sir, since it appears that the state of Quern is gagging to have the railway, even if the landowners aren't, and if you can assure me of the land rights issue, I'll be very happy to do them a favour. The Marquis grimaced. Unfortunately, it's not as simple as that. We are not difficult people, but the government drags its feet when it comes to cleaning out the bandits, because, you understand, bandits and governments have so much in common that they might be interchangeable anywhere in the world. I see you smiling, Mr. Liebwig. Is something amusing? Many bandits? A considerable amount. This whole area is rather spoiled by them. Unpleasant bandits who would cheerfully commit murder if and when they think they can get away with it. I have to tell you that if you are in a hurry to clear the Marquis of bandits, I'm afraid, Mr. Ankh-Morpork, you might have to do it yourself. And I see you are still smiling. Will you be so good as to share the joke? The well-known so-called Ankh-Morpork sense of humour does not translate very well here, I'm afraid. Don't be, said Moist. When the humours were handed out, Ankh-Morpork got the one for joking, and Quern had to make do with their expertise in fine dining and love-making. He held a beat and said, Would you fancy a trade? The Marquise giggled into her wine, smiled at Moist, and winked, while her husband grinned and said solemnly, I think, monsieur, we prefer the status quo. And Moist, who had almost but not totally embarrassed himself, said, Sir, apart from the goblins, do any decent people live